My name is Mike Shepard. I'm a producer. I want to get to know the artists in my new community. This is 1,000 Meals with 1,000 Artists.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Gibson, and I am an actor and filmmaker.
Hi, I'm Robert Vaughn, and I am a filmmaker.
This week, I am doing a special on-the-road edition of 1,000 Meals. I've done this before where I speak to artists who are outside of the Ottawa region, usually while I'm traveling or out and about, and we connect more virtually. We aren't able to necessarily sit around the same table together, but we're still able to connect and discuss their art and a very interesting project that they are undertaking. So this week I spoke to Jennifer Gibson and Robert Vaughn. They are the team, some of the team, behind the film This Time. This film is starting to do screenings that are really all across North America. They describe it as a tour that they put together, free screening opportunities in a variety of cities and locations in the US and Canada as well. It's also making its trip around to various film festivals, and we'll have some more screenings coming up this fall, and maybe look out for something hopefully in the Ottawa region as well. Jen and Rob are a married couple. They're a combo of producer, actor, director. Robert directed the film. Jennifer's a producer as well as in the film, and it's really clear to me the passion that both of them have for the subject matter of this particular project. This Time is a film that's about a closeted teen who inherits her deceased father's journal. She discovers cryptic clues that uncover a secret life that he had. Now, to fulfill his dying wish, she must blackmail an alcoholic hearse driver to race cross country to attempt a rendezvous with her father's friend, Liza Minnelli. It is a heartfelt film, and the messaging and the themes in and around it are clearly important to the artist that I had a chance to speak to today. Jen and Rob are fantastic people. Just from our short conversation, I would jump on a film set with them any day. They are such fantastic people. They talk a lot about what fueled them into creating this project and what kind of lit a fire under them to kind of really dive into this subject matter, and specifically trying to make big change with small acts, not only in and around their lives, but on film sets and in the film and art that they create. Without further ado, let's listen to my conversation on the road edition as I speak to Jen and Rob. I really want to begin with where this all began. Like, I know we've got your film we're going to talk about, but I really want to talk about each of you and where your careers began. Jen, maybe we can begin with you. Where did this all start for you, getting into the world of acting, producing, creating film?
Well, acting is always what I wanted to do my whole life. And I never really thought that I could do it growing up in a small town in BC back in like the 70s, 80s, 90s. We didn't have much film. Well, by the 90s we did. But
Right.
I did become an actor, and I love acting to my core. But when the whole Harvey Weinstein scandal broke and Me Too happened, I just got so angry.
Yeah.
And, it was great that the solidarity we saw with people standing up and saying Me Too and standing together. But I thought, but what next? We can't just
Right.
acknowledge that all this happened and then move on without change. So for the first time in my life, I became an activist, and that led to working with a group called After Me Too. We all founded this group about how to address sexual harassment and violence in the entertainment industry. And that got me to knowing that the more females you have in positions of power in any business, whether it's the film business or a construction company or anywhere, the less sexual harassment and sexual violence there will be. So that really lit a fire under my butt to get behind the camera and start telling stories. So, I was lucky enough to get some directing jobs that I worked my butt off for. Film and producing just kind of comes naturally to me because I've been on so many sets. I've been a background performer, I've been a stand-in, I've done a bunch of crew jobs. I've seen so much, and I've always tried to learn from what works and what doesn't work. So that's kind of how producing came to me. That was a long-winded answer, wasn't it?
It's a fantastic answer. I mean, I really appreciate what you said there about the acting and performing being kind of at your core, but then having that moment, Harvey Weinstein, Me Too, that spark that's so fascinating to me, because that it seemed like from there you took everything. And I love that question. What's next? What's the next step? It's not just about solidarity now and what happened. It's what happens now, what happens moving forward. And I love that answer. That was fantastic.
Thank you. Well, I think as a woman, I needed the rage, and I needed somebody to say, like, you should direct or you should make movies, because I didn't have the inherent belief in myself that I could do it until somebody else said, but you should, for other people. And, I have a 9-year-old daughter. Well, spoiler alert, I'm married to Rob. So he also has a 9-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
And for her, I don't want her to encounter the kind of world that I did as a female.
Right.
So, yeah, that to me was really, you're absolutely right, what lit a fire.
Can I ask who around you was saying, you should do this, go do this?
Oh, well, it wasn't actually one person saying to me. It was more for the After Me Too group. We got together groups of lawmakers. We got, sexual harassment specialists, trauma experts, etc. And we were trying to make a forum on how do we change this. And the biggest thing we found is women in positions of power. So it wasn't necessarily one person saying, Jennifer, you should do this. It was more for the cause, we all, and it was the first time in my life that I ever realized, as a feminist, it means I have to do something now, which is so similar to what happened with this film, because on this time I realized, as an ally, and as an ally, I have to stand up and do more. So I guess anger works well on me.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's a great. I find that's a great motivator of anything. Yeah. Anger can be a fantastic motivator.
Well, it's constructive or destructive, right?
That's right. That's right. I mean, it's a shame that things have to get to a point where it's anger is the thing that ends up fueling change, but we've seen it happen where it does have to boil and get to that point, and then change happens. And I can't wait to talk about this film, because I think what you said is a great lead into it. Before we do, I'd love to hear from you, Rob, of kind of the same question. Where did this all begin for you, both as an artist and where that kind of began, but then maybe what led you to this project as well?
So as a kid, I'd moved around a lot. And I'm originally American. I'm a dual citizen now. We moved around a lot. And so you always had to become kind of a chameleon to fit in. Which I think is a typical story of a lot of artists and certainly performers. So I was always drawn to the acting side of it as a kid, but I was obsessed with movies and television. If I could crawl into the TV, I would. I'd have movie posters on my ceiling, my walls. You go down to the video store. Because I'm old enough when they had video stores. But
I am too. I remember video stores.
Yeah, which was great. I loved going in there. It was a whole experience now. Now it's so easy, and we're just kind of, sort of so spoiled, right? But I loved that tangible experience. But so I always knew this is what I wanted to do. My parents always said, have something to fall back on. which wasn't the worst advice, but Denzel Washington has a saying that says, don't have a fallback because you'll do it. Fall forward. But I went to UC Santa Barbara. I got a degree in pre-law, which had a lot of sociology, philosophy, politics, things like that. And I took a bunch of film courses as well. But I found that sort of having that liberal education helped me as a writer because I could bring a lot of that into my art, a lot of ideas and things that maybe I wouldn't have been exposed to if I was just loading a camera in a film class. So I did that. And then I went to LA and kind of just worked for Roger Corman's studio as a PA, which was really trippy and just kind of a great experience. And just
must have been.
Yeah. I mean, they would be people with like doing miniatures and with like dinosaur puppets on their hands eating bulldozers. It was so amazing sort of just to see all that in its sort of raw form. And then, I just kept toiling away at it. I hooked up with a Canadian company, and that's what brought me to Canada. And I was, sort of fell into this pattern of, it was, of making all these television movies and producing them mostly, directing some. And the ones I was directing, I was like, oh, okay, well, how can I find a way in? How can I make this interesting to me? Or what muscle can I stretch here? But it was never like overall a passion project, it was always me kind of trying to like fit in my art within the context of a widget. And I think, with Jen's experience and time, in the After Me Too movement, and then just my disillusionment with the Trump years, the populism here, it was less anger and more disillusionment. And, I really wanted to do something with some meat on its bones that resonated. And we've had friends and family and people from the community that have had, bad experiences, young people with bullying, self-harm, attempted suicide and all of that. So, Jen and I kind of came to this sort of at the same time, maybe hers through the anger and mine through the sort of just disillusionment. And we turned our art to service, which is sort of what Oprah says, and it's really, it's kind of a powerful thing. And you know what? It came together super fast. We developed it with this brilliant queer writer in LA, Allie Jennings, that Jen had been working with at Netflix. And then our partner came in, Sahar, and with, financing. We put it with tax credits. Most passion projects, they sit in your desk drawer for 15 years. Yeah. But this was different because people wanted to be a part of it because they felt like it had something to say, and which was so gratifying for me and Jen because, most of your business life is just serving the factory, right? Right. So that's kind of how I came to
As we now kind of shift into talking about the film itself, I did have a question to lead into it because something that I had read, and I wanted to confirm this, that this film was made in 12 days. Is that true?
True. Rob, you can elaborate. You always put in the 13th for the second unit.
There was a 13th day in there. Okay.
Well, it was the 13th day was just second unit, me and a cameraman with that hearse for the pass-bys, right? Okay. Like you just don't have time for that kind of material. So, I hesitate to say it was 13 full days, but we've kind of come up in this sort of world. We've directed movies. Jen has, I have, in 10 days. We've produced and directed in 12 days.
I don't advise it. If you can at all get away from it, do it. But if it has to be done, and in this case, we had a budget and we had
Right.
material that we had to serve. And so to do it in the best possible way, it was going to be in these 12 days. And we were just so fortunate too. And also grateful because of all of our experience that we knew some amazing artists that could come in and key for us who wouldn't always get that experience or that credit necessarily on the bigger shows, but they're just worth every penny that those people are. They're so talented, they're so hardworking, and they believed in the project, and everybody just gave it 1,000% every day. It was so great to see.
And it's a real balancing act. Just sorry to interrupt, but just to that point of like, you get these amazing, our production designer, Sarah Lang, our DP, Justin Urosky, you can't, you're always balancing, right? Like, you don't have enough money to pay them what they're worth, right? But like, as much as you'd like the 14 days or the 15 days, they're also artists and they have value. And so you're always balancing that. But to Jen's point, I think everybody felt like I'm in, 100%, just simply because of what the movie was about and what it said.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because obviously the subject matter itself is going to appeal and draw on that passion. I would also say, to the point that you're both making, the people you work with, so important. You can't pull projects off without this great team. And I've only been talking to both of you for 12 minutes, and I would work on this with you for sure. Like, I just getting the sense from both of you, I'm like, if you're that great to talk to and work with, people are also willing, I feel, to do that as well. Like, subject material is obviously one step, but I feel like the people and artists you surround yourself with, that's also so important to getting something like this.
Thank you. I think so too. And if there's one thing that I take pride on for myself, like in a work situation, it's that I try to treat everybody with respect and, well, full stop, treat everyone with respect and just listen to people. And I like to think that they feel heard on our shows. And this show in particular was one that we wanted to treat with the utmost of sensitivity. We had a largely LGBTQIA plus crew and cast, and then some who were not in the community but were allies, and we all had some learning to do. But it was so great because it was the first time that Rob and I had a set that was fully our own, that we didn't have to answer to a network or someone. So like if someone said, "Oh, it'd be nice if we could put pronouns on the call sheet," I said, "Okay, done." That's right. Just done. And we didn't have to check with anyone. And that was amazing. Somebody else said, "Oh, it'd be great if there was maybe a mental health resource to put up around." Absolutely. Let's do it. Every idea, as long as it was a good one that didn't cost millions of dollars, could be done, could be okay just by Rob and I. And that was a great feeling of liberation on the set too.
Well, and that's our job, Michael. Our job as director, producer, and Jen and I are a good team because I'm like super intense. Like
he's
myopic.
Bad cop.
Yeah, but and my intensity is not because I'm angry. It's just that's you have 12 days to make this the best you can make it. But I would say, and so Jen is always great at sort of keeping the tone on set. Well, I mean, she's just a good counterweight to my intensity, but our job as director and producer is to empower artists. Well, I don't care if it's the actors, the designer, the DP. You are trying to empower them. They're all filmmakers, and liberate them to dream and to feel like they're in a safe space where they can bring you their ideas. They can bring you stuff. You don't have to use every one of them. I mean, in the end, you're ultimately filtering it through a vision and a lens. But you want that environment where everybody feels like they have skin in the game and will be heard. And just if you empower people to dream, the whole is going to be far greater than the sum of its parts. But that's our job: is to liberate, empower, so people can do their best work.
I mean, that's so well put. I think describing that way that you produce and create film, that's so powerful and gives just a sense of what it must have been like working kind of behind the scenes on this film. I guess for me, so the film this time, you've talked a bit about creating that atmosphere and what it took to build it. What are your hopes for those who then see this film, see the art, and what are their takeaways going to be from seeing this?
Well, I want to do no less than change the world.
Okay.
And I laugh because I have to, because I'm a good, humble Canadian girl. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
honestly think the world is in such a state right now that something needs to change. And this film is about allyship, which the root of allyship is just being of service to a race or group that is not one that you identify with. So to me, if we had more of that going around, then the world would be a better place. But specifically to us LGBTQIA plus allyship, I would really hope that anybody who is queer and sees this movie knows that they are fantastic just the way they are. And I would hope that their parents and their loved ones who see this movie know that too. That, you know, that kid or that person is still just the exact same person. It's nothing has changed about them.
Yeah, I mean, I think we want people to watch this to know you're okay. Not only are you okay, but you matter. And our art is our voice, and we believe people need to use their voice. And you know, there's so many people out there that are just sort of liberals, which is great. I mean, those are my values. But you know, just using your voice or your art or your brand, what you wear, how you vote, how you spend your money, you know, to what you know, if you can translate sort of your values into active allyship, well, then you can help somebody, and you can, I believe you can change the world. And you know, we really, this movie is grim as, you know, it's easy to paint things. And I get it. You know, there's this horrible sort of white lash and populism and anti, others that aren't like you. But I mean, this movie focuses on the good, right?
Yeah.
On the good in people, our better angels, so to speak. And I think that's so important right now. And I think you're seeing that in the election down south with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. You're seeing people embracing joy, good. You know, how are we more connected than different? And yet, and how can we celebrate each other's differences and say we're stronger because of that? You know, but I mean, I think that's something that Jen and I just believe to our core, and we wanted to focus on. So I don't think this is in any way a didactic sort of like lecturing film. And not, you weren't saying that, Jen, but it's just a very universal sort of father-daughter story, but that I think cloaked in that is a sort of allegorical bridge of allyship, active allyship, which you know, we'd love, even if just people walk away from the theater, even if you don't like the film, you know, start the conversation.
Right.
You know, start talking about what it's about. I mean, if we could accomplish that, that would be great. And if you like the film, you know, how can you, become an active ally, not just passive?
And what you're describing is exactly what I love about film, theater, or any kind of art space within storytelling. That idea of it may surfacely be broken down to simply father, daughter, but then there's complexities, and it opens up and it starts conversations. And like the film, not like the film, if you can start a conversation because of it, to me, the piece of art has done its task. It's there to give that lens and to start that conversation. And it feels to me like it's coming from such a genuine place from both of, not only both of you, but how you're describing your crew and everyone and their passion to just get this story out there. It sounds so fascinating to me.
Well, yeah, and that's why it's been, we're not doing the greatest job of distributing this movie, only because we're not charging for it yet, because we really wanted to give everyone the opportunity, you know, in the community to see it, who we knew that our crew and cast and friends and family had all spoken about not having the opportunity to see movies like this. So we're super excited because we have one more free screening coming up at the Stonewall Inn in New York City, which is the birthplace of Pride. It's where Pride began back in 1969. So it feels kind of surreal to be, at such a monumental place in 2S LGBTQIA history with our little allyship film. It's pretty amazing.
That's fantastic. I hope we can get it up in the Ottawa area. That would be great. We'd love to see it
you know what?
screened up here as well.
On our website, there is the option for hosting screenings as well. And it's so close to us that, maybe Rob and I or one of us could come up there and present the film, do a Q&A with any of your artists, because there's so much to say, to me anyways, about Canada and Canada film right now, because we're going to have a bit of a rough time, in my opinion, for the next few years, just based on people I've been speaking to. It's probably not going to get better immediately, and it's going to be a bit of a rough go. So it's a really interesting and challenging time in our industry. And unfortunately, there's not much we can do about that. All we can do is work on, what we do in the meantime. So I'd like to, the only sort of positive I can think of all of this is that there will be time for you to concentrate on your art and maybe what you want to say. And if it is something you're passionate about, sometimes it just comes together. Like this film came together in 1 year. From concept to post-production was 1 year. We conceived of the movie in January, and in December of that year in 2022, we were in post-production. And that never happens. It certainly never happened to us, but it felt like the right movie at the right time, and it caught lightning.
Well, and also I'll just quickly add to that, disruption is coming. It's always cyclical in our business, but the streamers are now when I was growing up and there was 3 networks, they become these giant behemoths. They do the Deadpools. They have to focus on the IP stuff. They're just going for the 14-year-olds and the video game people, but even they're not going to movies. Aside from Deadpool, for every Deadpool, there's a Borderlands and a Garfield, right?
Yeah.
So the distribution business is hurting. So, we don't make films to we have great actors in this movie. I wouldn't call anybody a giant movie star. And when you don't have that, what are you going to do? Just sell it to an Amazon for $15,000 and let them own it for 20 years? It's no, you don't make a movie to put it on a shelf or have it get lost somewhere. You make it for people to see it. So, I don't think there's a right or wrong way anymore. I think that disruption is coming, that independent filmmakers have to get creative. We put together this 16-city screening event, this sort of tour that we've been on. And then we're talking to an independent theater that has 4 theaters about a platform theatrical. It'll be streaming on Gather. So, we have places to drive the press to for $4.99.
I would like to interrupt just for 1 second, Rob, to point out that 16-city tour is in huge thanks to Free Mom Hugs. They have been such great supporters and friends of the film. Do you know Free Mom Hugs, Michael?
No, I don't.
Oh, it's a fantastic organization started by a mom in Oklahoma City who rejected her son when he first came out to her, just because of, conservative Baptist upbringing. And when she finally did the work and educated herself, she became his biggest supporter. And she wore a button to her first Pride that said Free Mom Hugs. And her name's Sarah Cunningham. And from there, they've got over 75,000 volunteers now for Free Mom Hugs. And it's a group of moms, dads, aunts, uncles, friends. We just show up at Pride parades. I'm a volunteer, and we show up at Pride parades with our shirts. And if anybody wants a hug, we're happy to give them one, because unfortunately, so many queer kids aren't accepted by their parents. And it's been a long time since they've had a sort of parental figure give them a hug. So,
well, and a simple, profound act as like a hug, right, has so much power. And Sarah had a viral moment after she went to that Pride and said, look, if you're from the community, and you want somebody to see you, celebrate you, stand up for you at your wedding, at your graduation, maybe your parents won't, I will be there for you. And she did, she would get on planes and it was just like, what an incredible woman and an incredible organization. But talk about active allyship, but starting with something as simple and profound as a hug.
Amazing. No, that's simply incredible. And again, it may seem like the simplest small act, but if it means something so big to someone else, like it can do so much
like I went and walked in the Toronto Pride this year as a hugger, and it's so powerful. Like people just giving them a hug and saying you matter, and if somebody else doesn't see that, that's on them. And then they look at you like, really? Because nobody's ever said that to them before, some of these people. Yeah. And that's so sad to me. But if we can be one of the first ones, at least they've had somebody say that, because everybody deserves to hear that.
That's fantastic. So the film is this time. We would love to see you down here in Ottawa. We've definitely got to make that happen, because I feel like
I love Ottawa. It's a beautiful city.
Great, and this is such a great message. We have such an active film and arts community, and I'm sure everyone would absolutely rally around this film. I just wanted to say thank you to both of you, Jennifer, Robert. You've been fantastic. Thank you for taking the time and for all the hard work that you did to make this happen and create such a fantastic atmosphere. I know for our audience who's listening are fans of the work that we do. Atmosphere is so important, and the world you're creating when you're building and creating art is so important to people. So thank you for making that a priority. To make
You're welcome. And it should never be toxic. Sets should not be a toxic place. Art can't really come out of toxicity. It can come out of the healing of toxicity.
And Michael, I just wanted to say, I mean, it's a cliche. It takes a village, but it absolutely takes a village. And you even giving us the time, which we're grateful for on your platform, to reach your listeners, we're all part of this village together. And we all have a part to play. Whether we think we do or not, we do. And, and I'll end it with this, because it's one of my favorite things, and I wish I'd said it, but I didn't. Tom Hanks said, one of the most powerful words you'll ever know is the word help. Help. Just, whether it's your neighbor, whether it's, somebody seeking advice, whoever, just help, and you will, and it's the Oprah thing, service, do service, and you will see results. So anyway, but thank you so much for having us today.
1,000 Meals with 1,000 Artists is a project of Soul One Arts, Inc. Produced and edited by me, Mike Shepard. Original music by Savannah Shea. Thank you to this week's artists and the local restaurants who host us. For more on 1,000 Meals with 1,000 Artists and Soul One, please visit soulonearts.ca. If you're an artist, feel free to reach out to us on our website and connect for your own meal. Thank you for listening.